if you could just give first, just a little bit about who you are and what you do now. So maybe what your name is, when you graduated from here, and what you are doing right now, kind of in your life journey. That would be great. And hopefully they'll be able to hear you and we'll kind of go from there.
Um, Hi everyone. I can't see you looking at me directly, so I hope we're making eye contact across some angle. I'm Izzy. I graduated in 2018. Um, Mr. Clark sitting over there was my art teacher as well. um, I am an illustrator now. I grew up obviously doing art in the Waldorf curriculum, but both my parents were artists in their own right, so it was kind of in my blood. And in high school, I did like all of the like jersey designs for Ultimate Frisbee and like all the posters, all the things. So I feel like I kind of set myself up for this one. And so yeah, I went to Southwestern University after high school. I got an art scholarship, and 6 months in, I actually left because I wanted to start my own business, and investing in school just didn't seem like a good choice. So then I left and did freelance art for like 2 years. I painted dogs. And then I met my first author, who her name is Lisa Watson, and our book together is coming out shortly in August. She and I worked together for 3 years on 3 different books, and I discovered that I really liked being an illustrator and decided to make it my work. So that's where I have landed, and now I work with several different authors and illustrate children's books that are really meaningful to me and hopefully to society someday. So yeah, that's me.
Everybody, my name is Michael Coury. I graduated from the Denver Waldorf High School like a century ago in 2007. So it's been a while. But after that, I attended the University of Denver for international studies and Russian. And then I stayed there for a master's degree in international studies. And I now work for the Maryland Department of Health, working on overdose health policy.
Okay, great. Thank you so much for the intro. Before I dive into anything, are there any initial questions that you guys might have for any of them individually or all of them in general? Or I can wait. Great. Lovely. Okay, well, thanks so much for giving us kind of your spiel so far. And wondering if you guys would mind sharing a little bit about how you feel like Waldorf specific education prepared you for work or further education in a way that you feel might be different than your peers or colleagues that you are with.
I would totally agree with that. I think that Waldorf gave me a lot of resilience too, just like giving me the confidence to figure out any problem that I had. So for me, I really feel like my freedom in my life path and choosing to run my own business was really important to me. And I think Waldorf gave me like the self trust to do that and to build that and to go out and get curious, research uncarved paths, and really carve that for myself. I don't even know if I could do it without a Waldorf education.
Especially with the critical thinking point, like I feel like Waldorf education really excels at like exposing you to different things, getting you to think about things in a different way, being able to consider like other people's points of view, which like for me in my line of work, it's like kind of like empathy kind of has to be the cornerstone of everything that we do, like any policy that affects people's lives. So being able to like put yourself in the shoes of another person, like thinking about what their different experiences are in life is like something I feel like Waldorf just like really, really prepares you for. Yeah, and I rely on that all the time. So.
You're all doing really different things right now with your lives. And obviously when you were at Waldorf, you were having to take a lot of classes that seemingly have nothing to do with the career path you took. Now, Julia, you spoke on that a little bit about kind of how those things intersect. Izzy or Michael, do you see like kind of what are your thoughts on this idea that you had to take all of these science classes, for example, Izzy, and you took I mean, all sort of math classes all throughout this thing that, you know, maybe now you don't use in the same way, but kind of how has that advanced where you're at now, or has it?
I can actually jump on that one. I had Dr. Heverton when I was in school, and I know Julia did too. And she really brought math to me in a more creative way than probably any other math teacher ever did. She, I think, got her minor in theater. So her math classes were like very dramatic, and she just really pulled in a lot of like artistic connection, both in the form of theater and visually. And it really influences my art still today. I think, especially if I'm designing logos and stuff, which I also do, the geometry that I learned in math class and even like little parts of chaos theory and stuff, I still work into my life and work into the way that I approach my work often. And it's almost like there wasn't really a wasted class for me. Like everything really pulls together to compound on kind of each day I go about my work and just like life as a human in general. And the fact that we like all got to express ourselves pretty authentically in each class made a difference with like what we got from each class.
For me, it's like I'm probably repeating myself, but like I feel like the exposure to like all of the different like forms of art that you like take, like all the like unconventional things, like I don't know if you guys still do eurythmy or whatever, but like again, like I feel like that primes you for thinking outside of the box. And like that sounds like a cliche, but like don't take that for granted, because like I promise you, you will go to like, if you go to college, you'll be surrounded by your peers, and I think you'll be surprised at like how difficult that can be. Like that in and of itself is a skill. So like I think it's like, yeah, it definitely like helps you be a more well-rounded person, 100%. And yeah, I mean, like just the ability to like think about the world in a little bit of a different way is like, yeah, don't take that for granted.
Michael, you just brought up about like kind of that transition to college, and you know that for you it felt like you learned how to think outside the box from all of these kind of, you know, unconventional parts of your high school experience. A lot of our students are planning to go on to college after this. What do you guys think was a tough transition for you, like that maybe you feel like you might have experienced in light of this, and how you kind of overcame that? What was the harder part for you?
I think for me, like the biggest like transition from going to college was like just being around so many more people. Like there were 12 kids in my graduating class in 07. And then like the University of Denver is not like a very large university, like compared to some others, but like it still felt like a really big culture change. So, but it was amazing. Like you know, met like some of my best friends there. Couldn't recommend it enough. But yeah, also like the point about like, don't sweat it if you don't feel like you have a direction. You can figure that out as you go along. Like you don't have to have your whole life planned out when you graduate, because you will find like your path as you go. But yeah, I think for me, like the biggest thing was like, because academically, honestly, like I felt very well prepared, especially compared to some of my peers, not to sound like a like a head case, but like, yeah, I think I was very well prepared, and like the biggest change was like just being around so many more people. That was a crazy experience.
Yeah, piggybacking off of that, for my short 6 months in college, I often found myself being like the most involved one in classes. Teachers really enjoyed having me in their classes because I would actually like raise my hand and participate in conversations and stuff. And I was very surprised that most of my peers did not really feel like adding themselves to the discussion or whatever, because that's so normal for us at Waldorf. Like just knowing all our classmates growing up and our teachers really asking us to think deeply about things. And for me, the thing that was difficult was the amount of homework. But I also, growing up, didn't have the best time management skills built in anyway. So homework was definitely a thorn for me. So if you're someone who struggles with deadlines and doing work that you don't want to do, that's something to either find a way to make a better habit in now. Um, and someone did give me that advice when I was your age, and I didn't listen. But seriously, like the habits for workload are ones that you want to create now if you are thinking of going to college, and also just in general for life. Like I still have to get projects to clients on time and everything. But the reason that I left was because I didn't feel like college was directing me in the way that I wanted to go necessarily. I went to a small liberal arts college in Texas after going to Waldorf K through 12. So I did a full life cycle of Waldorf. And I feel like college is a wonderful place to discover what you want to do. I feel like if, especially like Julia said, if you want to get away, I would strongly suggest that to anybody, even if you did a gap year. If you don't know what you want to do and you feel kind of directionless, a gap year for traveling is like probably one of the best things you could do. And I probably wish I had done that. And in some ways I did. But some of you might feel more like trade school is for you. And I feel like that's also a completely reasonable path. I think Waldorf did a really good job preparing me to like know myself really well. And if you guys could lean into that part of it, you'll be fine. Like it honestly doesn't really matter what path you take as long as it feels right for you and you're following your curiosity and what your unique skills and strengths are, because that'll ultimately lead you to a life and a path of fulfillment and service.
Yeah, go ahead.
What was the worst thing about your Waldorf experience? Not just like the education, but the social aspect. What's the worst thing?
Okay, I actually have an answer for this, and it might be surprising. The worst thing that I think Waldorf gave was that it sometimes has the ability or capacity to like force you into an identity that your peers know you as, that you can't leave. Like you can't try new stuff, can't dye your hair, you can't, you know, go do this other, like you can't like reinvent yourself really, because your peers know you as this one thing, and if you've been there a long time, like you feel like you have to stay stuck in that. So I didn't really get to like explore other ways and recreate myself until I left.
Like, I might add to that also, like, I think like, you know, there's a blessing and a curse to being in like a small classroom environment. One is like you build these like really great relationships with like the other people in your class. They're like your brothers and sisters. Like I still talk to people from my Waldorf class. Like you can't not be super close to them, but then, you know, the flip side of that is like, okay, well, you know, if you went to like East High School or something, there might be like 1,000 other people in your class, and you might, you know, be able to like find your people a little easier. So I think like I often think that's probably the biggest drawback, to, at least to my experience. Like I feel like maybe like I could have found more people like me. But at the same time, like the positive part of that is like you get a lot of like personal attention that you might not get anywhere else. And like the older I get, I think like the more I realize that was like a blessing, because you're like your teachers freaking like know you, like they know you so well, and I don't know that you would be able to get that experience anywhere else.
And piggybacking off of that, like I've definitely found that life is about relationships. So I would go as far as to say it's the most important thing. And especially being an entrepreneur, like your network is your net worth, and not just like who can give you leads, but like who can give you support when you need it, who can help you move your couch when you need it, who can, you know, help you throw a party or whatever. And Waldorf really also gave me a base of feeling like I had a community. So that was probably the biggest gift, because not only are you raised as like in this bubble of love from your teachers and your classmates, and I was really close with my class. I know that's not always how it is, but I had a really wonderful group of people who changed over the years, but many of them stayed the same. And graduating together was like the best gift. And I'm still in touch with many of them today. I think you might know your woodwork teacher, Cameron Archer. He was in my class, and we still hang out and have coffee sometimes. And, yeah, just giving me a good base of like healthy connections helped me know how to create them again. Like Julia was saying, the way that you learn to follow up and just like be a real human with others will carry you through college or business relationships or anything after that.
In terms of like a small class size, right, where you know everybody on a very personal and first name basis, you don't have a lot of opportunities to like cold approach people in general. You know your teachers, you know your classmates, you know who you're going to see on a day-to-day basis. Did any of you have a problem or a fear of cold approaching people in general, right? Professors, like whoever, when going outside of this school and outside of this community? And if so, how did you deal with it?
Definitely depends on your personality a little bit, but I think if you can just remain curious and have that be like your base for opening up any conversation, you'll find that if you're just like real and you're yourself, people will open up with you. Like if you're open, others will open up. Like if you're trying to make friends, or you know, you're meeting with a professor in college, people just want to meet like on a really authentic level. So when in doubt, just fall back on those, you know, Waldorf roots. I feel like for me in high school, we were all being very real with each other all the time because we were like family. So it didn't take very long to sink back into that with new people. In fact, it was just really exciting and fresh, because it almost felt like sometimes we'd been deprived of that. So I was like, yay, new friends to discover.
Yeah, like also that, like, I'm sure every university is like this if you're going for higher education, but there's like there are so many things you can do, whether it's like sports or student groups. If you're into the Greek life thing, that's great too. Actually, that was like a huge preconceived notion of mine, was that like all people in like frats and sororities were like vapid and like annoying. And some of them definitely were, but like I think I was pleasantly surprised by like there's cool kids in Greek life. Like you can find your people in college. Like I think for me it was like I kind of gravitated towards like the quote unquote like alternative kids. And kind of we found each other out like pretty easily. Like but the like and I yeah, like I said before, like I met some of the best friends in my life like because of that. But if that's something you're like super worried about, there's so many things you can do. Like there's events, concerts, political groups, just so much you can like dip your feet into. Like and so many different like different ways to like meet people.
Yeah, definitely do the things you love and go to clubs and stuff. Like take as many opportunities as you can. Like be a little bit of a yes man if you've ever seen that movie. And you will find your people because they'll be at the places with the things that you already like.
If you guys could go back and you had the opportunity to go to a public high school in Waldorf, would you guys have changed it and you think it would have set you up better for your future?
I didn't change it either. I think the benefits you get from a Waldorf education like just outweigh the cons so much. Like if I could snap my fingers, I would love to like to be like to have the same experience just with being around more people, but that just wasn't the case. But like in hindsight, looking back now, like 20 years later, I wouldn't change it for anything.
Yeah, Waldorf just allows you to have so many cool experiences. Like high school's probably the part I look back on with some of the most fondness. Like I had my senior trip to Costa Rica with my class, which most people have never been to a jungle or anything like that. And it was one of the most memorable just bonding experiences ever. And I got to practice Spanish so much. So like my sister and I just went to Peru, and I probably couldn't have gone on that trip without having that as a precursor, like knowing I could do it and be bilingual. And there's just so many like community things that happen in high school that like wrap up the whole education for those of you who have been there, that are really magical and special. And like the Waldorf High School asks you to think really deeply about things for like that whole time compared to the foundation that you were given K through 8th. And it's really just the cherry on top of the whole thing. Like so many people come up to me now and they're like, why are you the way that you are? Like, how do you think for yourself? Why are you such a critical thinker? Why do you care about things like poetry and just humanity? And why do you not have the same assumptions about people? And it was all because of high school. So I hands down wouldn't trade it for anything, even though at times I struggled with classmates like siblings, and there was unavoidable drama and things felt bigger than they actually were in life. It was super special.
What was the biggest surprise that came with your next steps that you guys took after Waldorf?
The things that surprised me, and I'm going to sound egotistical again, but was like how much better prepared I felt compared to some of my peers. So at DU, like at the time, they were making like all freshmen take this like basic writing class. And it was like the most like tedious, boring thing that was like I found to be useless. And it was like, how are other kids graduating high school and not being able to write like a very simple like 5-paragraph like essay? Like I think there's a lot of like some of the common concerns, like when I was at Waldorf, were like, oh, you might not get as such a strong education in STEM, or you might not be prepared for some of these like rigorous courses you're going to get in college. And I was very pleasantly surprised that that was not the case. That was not my experience at all. I felt like, compared to some of my peers, like over prepared.
What surprised me was that a lot of people, like, I guess I want to say like weren't as kind as other people that I was used to. But part of that was just going to Texas, and Texas is kind of its own planet in a way. But I think I was just so used to connecting with people like on a really deep level that having a lot of surface friendships for a while until I found my people was a little like uncomfortable, I guess, to navigate. And the other thing that surprised me was that like people still played sports pretty like close to professionally as adults. I guess I just always imagined that once you became an adult, you stopped playing sports. But now I'm in 3 volleyball leagues in Denver, and they're all really competitive. And so you can still have fun in sports as an adult if you were curious.
Just to kind of wrap things up, thank you so much for everything you've offered. If all of you could just share though, before we leave, the like piece of advice that you either wish to bestow or wish was bestowed upon you, and that you actually listened to while you were in high school. So something tangible in terms of advice.
I guess I can start. So one of the pieces of advice I got from a professor in undergraduate, so not related to Waldorf, sorry, but like I still feel like it's a good piece of advice, is to like really pay attention to like your body rhythm and like your productivity. So like people are way different, like it's completely different for everybody. So like find the time during the day that you are the most productive and like plan everything else around that. Like do small tasks. Like for me, I'm useless in the morning. So I just do checking email or whatever, things I don't have to think about in the morning, and then I'm more productive in the afternoon. So like it's kind of a boring piece of advice, but like I rely on it so much. Oh, and I just remembered something Miss Yannick said. So I also carry this with me every day, but like she said something that stuck with me, which was like at the end of every day, ask yourself, have you done your work today? And if you can answer that with a yes, I think that'll be one of the most fulfilling things like you will find in your life. Like I think about that all the time and thank her so much for that.
And one thing I learned from Mr. Johnson that still really resonates with me is like it doesn't really matter what you do. You could be a trash truck driver, but if you do that like with your full self, and do it well, you're going to be fulfilling not only yourself but the world. You're going to be showing up like in fullness and wholeness and doing something that contributes, and like as long as it makes you happy, that's the most important thing. And I would probably give myself the advice of just like don't worry so much, just be a sponge and take in all of the information that the world has to offer. Like nobody, or maybe people do tell you, but like I just brushed it away. But seriously, like try as many things as you can. Try as many things and like figure out who this self is that is coming into adulthood. Because now is the time, like when you get to your like after 25, that's the time you want to be slowing down, maybe finding a partner, maybe having starting to buy a house and have kids. Your 20s, like from now until 25, is your time to just mess things up and explore. So just like do that, just be a sponge.
Any final questions for you? Well, thank you all so much for giving us your time. I know you all have really amazing things happening in your own world, so you guys taking some time to chat with us today is really incredible, and we really appreciate it.